They win it. Kerr hits the three.
Kerr gets higher and on to the finals. For the 6th time in 8 years, for the Chicago Bulls.
Listen to the little things that you're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
that
I didn't call the timeout. I seen it. I didn't
that's
call
what
the
we
timeout.
learned, right?
Sad.
Yeah.
Man, you guys were good.
Yeah.
God, you were good.
But it was a joy because, you were coming in after, Rick Smith had retired. Jermaine was coming in, Baby Al, Jamal. And I remember, we had made halfway through your first season, we made that trade to get Brad Miller and Ron.
So Larry's leaving. I get a call from Donnie, hey, would you like to coach the Pacers? And I'm like, yeah, come back to Indiana, absolutely. So in my mind, right, I'm thinking, okay, Mark Jackson, Rick Smith, Chris Mullin, I'm thinking like I'm coming back to get that chance. So I get the job that summer, and this kid in Portland, Jermaine O'Neal, right? I'm like, Donnie, this guy, he's not playing a lot, but I think he's really good. I think we should trade for him.
If there's a time to do it, this is the moment.
Yeah, and Jermaine's, this one's gonna be good. So anyway, Donnie makes a trade. We get Jermaine, and now we got a team that it's a little tough. We got some, and you were great. Not only were you great, but you were like, okay, we're going to help Jermaine become great, and it goes back to again the teachings that we got, from Larry, from Magic, and everything else. It can't always be about you, right? How do you help your teammates? How do you help everyone else become better? And you did that for that team.
Well, I'm going to tell you an interesting story because once you made that trade, our very first practice, we were out there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And we were going hard.
Yeah.
And I remember Jermaine walking up to me. It's like, man, this is crazy. Ron and they go so hard. And I looked at him and was like, well, welcome to 80s and 90s basketball.
Yeah.
This is how it should be.
Yeah.
You should feel like this,
yeah.
right? And we kind of took off right after that.
Got it to Reggie. Here's a three. Yes! 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 He hit it from 40 feet as time expired.
For me as a coach, what y'all allowed me to do was not only coach, but also set some rules. And still today, I tell everybody, he still calls us coach.
I do.
Yeah.
Which is, one of the highest compliments you can get. That is a respect and a higher level, and I thank you for giving that to us.
Well, it's a mutual respect I have for both of you because it's funny because I said we were doing one of our TNT things, and I called you coach in front of Kenny Smith. And Kenny, came to me later like, why are you calling Isiah coach? I was like, he's my coach. He was my coach. He's like, that's like for people like Pop.
Yeah.
Or, you got one of those old, you call them guys coach. I was like, no, he's my coach.
Yeah.
That's how much respect I have for both of you. Now, you come back to the Pacers after you were with us for 3
years. 3 years. Yeah.
Then you come back.
Yeah.
And you guys had an interesting dialogue.
I get a call from Donnie. Larry's been hired to come back to the Pacers and
President of basketball operations.
And I walk in the office and it's Larry and Donnie. And Larry goes, hey, Isiah, I think you've done a great job here, but I've decided to go in a different direction. I'm going to let you go and I'm going to bring in, Rick Carlisle. And Larry, I don't know if you remember me saying this to you, but I said, Larry, I think you're making a mistake. I said, Larry, you and I think if we're together here in Indiana, I think we can do great things with this team. I think you and I would be dynamic here. Do you remember me saying that to you? And this is what Larry said, yeah, all that's good, but he said, you might be right. He going, and you've done a great job here. You haven't done anything wrong. I just like Rick better.
Well,
what did you say? I was like,
well, you know how close me and Rick are. We've been for since '83 or whatever. I thought Rick would be there forever, you know.
Yeah.
Things change, but
But I still think this. I'm going to say this in front of both of you. I've said this before. I think you made a mistake firing me because I think I'd have won with that team. And I think we never would have had the malice at the palace in Detroit. Like when you went to Boston with Larry, right? The respect the fans had. I thought that we would have had that in Detroit.
6:46. I remember it to this day of the third quarter.
And here comes Larry Brown.
It felt like a train in the middle of old Boston. That's how loud it was. And I remember looking at Chuck, and we said to ourselves,
You're in trouble.
That's the greatest moment in sports history. I promise you.
Here's Isiah. Let's see what we got. Bird on the drive. Oh, what a show. What a shot by Larry Bird.
I don't know if you can have any more ice water in your veins. One of the singular figures in the history of the NBA.
both of you guys have had an unbelievable career run in games. So I want us each to kind of talk about favorite moments of each other's that they can remember, because there's so many, and I'm personally going to start here on both of you guys. For this man, and I'm sure he's going to remember this, 1991, Game 5 in the old Boston Garden.
Yeah.
Larry goes down with an injury late in the second quarter.
Braun is hurt. Braun is down, and he's hurt.
Larry goes down, goes to locker room.
As soon as we find out the severity of the injury, we will have it for him.
Start to third, no Larry. Couple minutes go by, no Larry. We're looking at one another like,
We got a chance.
we're going to do this. We're going to beat the Celtics in the Garden. No one ever beat the Celtics in the Garden.
well, if it's a game I'm thinking about, I had a concussion at halftime. Well, the doctor says you've had enough. You can't go back out there. Enough's enough, Larry. To my back and this. I looked up there and the crowd was, oh, you could hear it in there, you know. It wasn't going good. I said, what's the score up there? He said, we're down. I went to the doc and said, I got to try this. He said, well, if you get dizzy and all this, come back in. And I go out there, and of course the crowd gets pumped up.
6:46. I remember it to this day of the third quarter.
And here comes Larry Brown.
It felt like a train in the middle of old Boston. That's how loud it was. The crowd was so loud. And I remember looking at Chuck, and we said to ourselves,
You're in trouble.
yes. Goes on to score 12 in those 6 minutes. Celtics go on a 33-14 run, and they beat us in Game 5. But that moment of watching you, look, I know you're supposed to be competitors, but I'm going against the guy who I patterned my game after, and you put on an unbelievable performance.
How many times has he tried that spike through your heart with shots like this?
But it's been more than a statistical line when you talk about Larry Bird here this afternoon.
And in '88, after you finally beat the Celtics, you move on to face